The void stretched infinite and cold, a graveyard of shattered stars where hope had long since faded. The human freighter stellar Resolve emerged from its warp jump, its hull a patchwork of scorched metal and hastily welded plates, bearing the scars of a dozen Croth ambushes. Captain Alara Voss stood rigid on the bridge, her graying hair pulled tight, her hazel eyes locked on the sensor array flickering with crimson warnings. The crew, 20 souls, the last remnants of the Orion trade fleet, clung to their stations, their faces gaunt with exhaustion and fear. The Croth, a relentless alien horde with bioships that devoured entire colonies, had driven humanity to the brink. Billions were gone, worlds reduced to ash, but Alara's grip on the hollow device in her hand never wavered. Its screen glowed faintly, displaying the blueprint of the Nova Forge, a weapon born from the remnants of fallen stars, a desperate bid to reclaim their future. It had come from a dying engineer on Proxima Outpost, his blood-streaked face whispering, "Save us," before the Croth silenced him forever. Alara swore she would. The stellar Resolve drifted toward a derelict star cluster, its core a treasure trove of stellar isotopes the Nova Forge demanded. The bridge hummed with tension, the air thick with the tang of ozone and sweat. Lieutenant Kale, her second-in-command, approached, his wiry frame tense, a jagged scar cutting across his cheek from their last fight. "Captain, scanners show Croft patrols closing in. We're sitting ducks out here." Alara's jaw tightened, her mind racing. "Then we don't sit. Prep the mining drones. We extract what we need and run." The crew leapt into action, their movements sharp despite their fatigue, launching the drones with a chorus of mechanical whirs. The machines burrowed into the star's crust, their drills glowing as they harvested the precious material. Alara watched, her heart a drumbeat of hope and dread. This was humanity's last stand. Failure meant extinction. A violent jolt rocked the ship, throwing Alara against the console. Alarm screamed, red lights bathing the bridge in a hellish glow. Croth fighters burst from the debris field, their organic hulls pulsing with a sickly green light, tendrils writhing like living weapons. Alara steadied herself, barking, evasive maneuvers. Arm the turrets. The crew scrambled, Kale diving to the gun controls, his fingers flying over the panel. Plasma bolts streaked past, one searing the hull, sending a shower of sparks across the deck. Alara clutched the hollow device, its weight a lifeline. The Nova Forge wasn't built yet, and they were outmatched. She activated the comms, her voice a steel blade cutting through the chaos. "All hands, hold the line. We're not dying today." The words ignited something in the crew, their eyes flashing with renewed fire as they returned fire, turrets roaring. The battle was a brutal dance, the stellar Resolve weaving through the debris, its cannons blazing with desperate precision. A Croth fighter exploded, its wreckage spiraling into the star's gravity well, a brief victory that lifted the crew's spirits. But more came, a swarm of bioships closing in, their numbers a tidal wave of death. Alara's chest constricted as the scanners lit up with a new threat, a Croth bio-dreadnought, its massive form dominating the void, its tendrils crackling with energy. She turned to Kale, her voice low but firm. "Get those isotopes aboard. I'll buy us time." He grabbed her arm, his scar twisting with worry. "Captain, you can't face that alone." She yanked free, her eyes blazing. "That's an order. Get it done." Grabbing a pressure suit and a plasma rifle, she headed for the airlock, her mind a storm of memories. Her brother's screams as the Croth took their homeworld. The engineer's dying plea. This was for them. Alara launched into the void, her suit's thrusters firing as she propelled herself toward the bio-dreadnought. The cold bit at her, the silence deafening, but she focused on the target, her rifle steady. She fired, plasma bolts tearing into the ship's sensory nodes, each hit a scream of defiance. The dreadnought shuddered, its attack faltering, giving the stellar Resolve a reprieve. The crew cheered over the comms, their drones racing to dock with the isotopes. Alara's suit took a hit, a plasma bolt grazing her arm, the pain a white-hot lance. She gritted her teeth, firing again, her vision blurring with sweat and blood. The dreadnought veered off, damaged but alive, its retreat a temporary victory. She drifted back, exhaustion clawing at her, her breaths ragged in the suit. Kale's voice crackled through. "Captain, we've got the isotopes." "Hold on." His hands pulled her inside, his face pale with relief and fear. "You're insane," he muttered. Back on the bridge, Ilara collapsed into her chair, her arm bandaged, the pain a dull roar. The hollow device beeped, its blueprint ready for the Nova Forge's assembly. The Kroth fighters retreated, their losses mounting, but she knew they'd regroup. She looked at her crew, bruised, bloodied, but alive, tears stinging her eyes. They'd lost everything, yet here they stood, forging a future from the ashes. The Nova Forge was their hope, a weapon to turn the tide, and she'd see it built. The Stellar Resolve's engines hummed, powering up with a new purpose, its hull still warm from battle. The war was far from over, but humanity's fire burned brighter. Ilara clenched her fist, the hollow device a promise of vengeance, her voice a whisper in the void. "We'll rise from these fallen stars." The ship moved deeper into the cluster, the crew working tirelessly to process the isotopes. Ilara oversaw the effort, her arm throbbing, but her spirit unbroken. She remembered her brother's laugh, his belief in humanity's tenacity, and it fueled her. The Nova Forge's core needed a fusion matrix, a complex design the engineer had barely explained. She studied the hollow device, her fingers tracing the schematics, piecing together the puzzle. Kale joined her, his hands steady as he calibrated the ship's fabricators. "We can do this," he said, his voice rough but certain. Ilara nodded, her heart swelling. They'd lost their homes, their families, but not their will. Hours passed, the crew's exhaustion battling their determination. The fabricator's word, shaping the matrix from the isotopes, a process that tested their ingenuity. Ilara pushed them harder, her voice a rallying cry. "Every second counts. The Kroth won't wait." A young engineer, Mara, stumbled, her hands shaking from fatigue. Ilara caught her grip firm. "You're stronger than this." "We all are." Mara straightened, tears in her eyes, and returned to work. The matrix took shape, a glowing orb of stellar energy, its power humming through the ship. Ilara felt a surge of pride, her losses echoing in her mind, her brother, her home, but now transformed into strength. The sensors beeped again, a faint Kroth signature on the edge of detection. Ilara's stomach dropped, but she masked it with a grim smile. "They're coming back. Finish the matrix, then we build the forge." The crew redoubled their efforts, the hangar bay alive with clanging metal and shouted orders. The matrix was secured, its energy stabilizing, a beacon of humanity's defiance. Ilara stood tall, her arm bandaged, but her spirit soaring. The Kroth thought they'd broken them, but from these fallen stars, a new weapon would rise. She looked out at the void, the star clusters glow a reminder of what they'd lost, and what they'd reclaim. The Stellar Resolve was no longer just a ship, it was a forge, and she its unyielding heart. As the matrix powered up, the ship's system strained, lights flickering under the energy surge. Ilara directed the crew, her voice cutting through the noise. "Reinforce the power grid. We can't lose this." Kale and Mara worked side by side, their hands blur, sweat dripping onto the controls. The Kroth's signature grew stronger, a bioship emerging from the nebula's edge. Ilara's heart pounded, but she refused to falter. The Nova Forge's framework began to take shape, its skeletal structure rising in the hangar, a testament to human ingenuity. She thought of the engineer's sacrifice, his blood on the hollow device, and it steeled her resolve. The bioship closed in, its tendrils lashing out, but the Stellar Resolve's turrets fired preemptively, buying time. Ilara watched the forge's progress, her breath held. The matrix slotted into place, the weapon's core igniting with a blinding light. The crew cheered, their voices raw with emotion, tears mixing with sweat. Ilara's arm burned, but she raised it in triumph, the hollow device clutched tight. The Kroth ship hesitated, its sensors overwhelmed by the forge's energy signature. This was humanity's answer, forged in loss, tempered in battle, ready to strike back. The stellar resolve hummed with power, its crew united, their eyes fixed on the future they'd fight to build. The bio ship retreated, its retreat a hollow victory, but Alara knew it wouldn't last. She turned to her crew, her voice breaking with pride. "We've built the heart of it. Now we make it a weapon." The hangar bay echoed with their agreement, tools clanging as they refined the Nova Forge. Alara's mind raced with plans: test the weapon, strike the Croth, reclaim their worlds. The void was dark, but within the stellar resolve a light burned, forged from fallen stars. Ready to ignite a war humanity would win. She stood tall, her pain a badge of honor, her crew her family, and the Nova Forge their salvation. The stellar resolve pulsed with newfound energy, its hangar bay a hive of frenzied activity as the Nova Forge's skeletal frame took shape under the harsh glow of work lights. Captain Alara Voss stood at the center, her bandaged arm throbbing, her hazel eyes scanning the crew's progress with unrelenting focus. The stellar isotopes from the derelict star cluster had powered the Forge's core, a blinding orb of energy that hummed with the promise of vengeance. The Croth bioship's retreat had bought them time, but the void remained a predator's den, and Alara knew the enemy would strike again. Her heart ached with the memory of her brother's laughter, lost to the Crotha's flames, fueling her drive to see this weapon completed. This was no longer just a ship, it was humanity's forge, and she its unyielding heart. Lieutenant Kale worked beside her, his scarred hand steady as he calibrated the forge's targeting array, sweat beading on his brow. "Core's stable, Captain," he said, his voice rough with fatigue. "But the Matrix needs a power shunt to handle full output. We're blind without it." Alara nodded, her mind racing. The hollow device in her pocket beeped, its blueprint hinting at a solution. A derelict coalition outpost, abandoned after the Croth purge, rumored to house a shunt prototype. "Set a course for Outpost Delta 7, she ordered, her tone brooking no argument. The crew murmured, their eyes wide with the weight of the decision. Delta 7 was a graveyard, its halls haunted by the ghosts of fallen comrades, but it was their only hope. The stellar resolve jumped, emerging near the outpost's decaying orbit. The structure loomed, a skeletal husk against the starlit void, its hull pocked with Croth scars. Alara led a boarding party, Kale, young engineer Mara, and a grizzled gunner named Holt, suited up and armed. The airlock hissed open, revealing a corridor choked with dust and debris, the faint hum of failing power grids echoing. Alara's chest tightened as she stepped inside, the smell of burnt metal triggering flashes of her homeworld's fall. She pushed forward, her plasma rifle raised, her resolve a shield against the memories. Mara stumbled, her voice trembling. "Captain, what if the Croth are here?" Alara gripped her shoulder, her eyes fierce. "Then we send them to hell." They navigated the outpost, their boots crunching on shattered panels. Holt scouted ahead, his gruff voice crackling over the comms. Movement, small, fast. A Croth scout skittered from the shadows, its mandibles clicking. Alara fired, the bolt searing its exoskeleton, but it lunged, clawing at Holt's leg. He roared, smashing it with his rifle, but blood seeping through his suit. Mara froze, tears streaming, but Alara yanked her forward. "Move now." They reached the engineering bay, the shunt prototype gleaming amidst the wreckage, a sleek cylinder pulsing with residual energy. Kale worked fast, disconnecting it, his hands trembling but sure. "Got it," he gasped. The outpost shuddered, Croth signatures flooding the scanners. They had to run. The return was a nightmare. Croth sentinels poured into the corridors, their claws scraping the walls. Alara fired, each shot a scream of rage, her arm burning with every recoil. Holt limped, his leg bleeding, but he covered their retreat, his gruff curses a battle cry. Mara clutched the shunt, her fear turning to determination as she followed Alara's lead. A sentinel lunged, its claw grazing Alara's side, tearing her suit. Pain seared through her, but she gritted her teeth, slashing with her vibraknife. They reached the airlock, the Stellar Resolve's ramp lowering just in time. Kale dragged her aboard, his face pale. "You're bleeding out, Captain." Back on the bridge, Alara slumped into her chair, her side bandaged, the shunt in Mara's hands. The crew worked feverishly, installing it into the Nova Forge. The weapon's frame glowed brighter, its power surging, but the Croth were closing in, 3 bioships on the scanners. Alara's vision blurred, but she forced herself up. "Finish it," she rasped. "We test it now." The shunt clicked into place, the forge's targeting array locking onto the lead bioship. Alara activated the weapon, her hand shaking on the trigger. A beam of stellar energy erupted, slicing through the void, vaporizing the bioship in a blinding flash. The crew erupted, their cheers raw with emotion, tears mixing with sweat. The second bioship fired, its plasma bolt rocking the stellar resolve. Alarms blared, hull integrity dropping. Alara staggered, her wound reopening, but she shouted, "Target the next one." Kale took the controls, his scar twisting with focus. The forge fired again, its beam tearing through the second ship, leaving only debris. The third hesitated, its tendrils twitching, then fled into the nebula. Alara collapsed, her breath ragged, but a smile broke through the pain. They'd done it. The Nova Forge worked. The crew gathered around her, their faces a mix of awe and grief. Mara knelt, tears falling. "You saved us, Captain." Alara gripped her hand, her voice weak but fierce. "We saved ourselves." The stellar resolve limped away, its hull smoking, the Nova Forge a beacon of hope. Alara's mind drifted to her brother, his face in her dreams, urging her on. The shunt had worked, but the weapon needed refinement, more power, better range. She tasked Kale and Mara with analyzing the data, her wound a constant ache. The Croth would retaliate, their losses a spark for vengeance. But humanity had a weapon now. Alara stared at the void, the fallen stars a reminder of their losses, yet also their strength. The forge was incomplete, but it was a start, a promise carved from blood and steel. She closed her eyes, the ship's hum a lullaby, her crew her family, their fight far from over. The hangar bay buzzed with repairs, the crew reinforcing the forge's frame. Alara oversaw it, her side stitched, but her spirit unbroken. She remembered the outpost's silence, the weight of every step, and it steeled her. The Nova Forge's next test loomed, facing a Croth fleet head-on. She plotted their course, her mind a battlefield of strategy and emotion. Kale brought her a report, his voice steady. "We can boost the output with the ship's fusion core, but it's risky." Alara nodded, her eyes hard. "Do it. We don't survive by playing safe." The crew rallied, their hands a blur, the forge's glow intensifying. Alara felt the weight of command, the lives depending on her, and it fueled her fire. A distant Croth signal pinged the scanners, a scout probing their position. Alara's heart raced, but she masked it with a grim smile. "Prepare for contact," she ordered. The crew armed the turrets, the forge humming with readiness. Alara stood tall, her wound a badge of honor, her crew her strength. The scout appeared, its green glow menacing, but the stellar resolve fired first, the forge's beam cutting it down. The crew cheered, their voices a roar of defiance. Alara watched the wreckage drift, her brother's memory a whisper in her ear. The Nova Forge was humanity's answer, forged from fallen stars, and she'd lead it to victory, or die trying. The stellar resolve hummed with a fragile hope, its hangar bay alive with the rhythmic clang of tools, as the Nova Forge's frame solidified under the crew's relentless effort. Captain Alara Voss leaned against a support beam, her side stitched but aching, her hazel eyes fixed on the weapon's glowing core. The successful test against the Croth scout had ignited a fire in the crew, their faces alight with determination despite the exhaustion etched into every line. The void outside was deceptively calm, but the scanners buzzed with faint Croth signatures, a storm brewing beyond the nebula. Alara's heart pounded with the memory of her brother's final stand, his voice a ghost urging her onward. The Nova Forge was their salvation, but it needed more power, more precision, to face the armada closing in. She clutched the hollow device, its blueprint a roadmap to survival, and steeled herself for the next fight. Lieutenant Kale approached, his scarred face grim, a datapad in hand. Captain, the fusion core boost worked, but it's taxing the ship. We need a stabilizer from the Tarsus relay, abandoned after the Croth hit it. Without it, the forge could overload. Alara's jaw tightened, the name Tarsus relay stirring a flood of grief. It was where her brother had died, defending the evacuation. Then we go, she said, her voice steady. Gear up the team. We leave at 8:30 a.m. Pakistan Standard Time. The crew exchanged glances, the weight of her decision palpable. But they nodded, their trust in her unshakable. Mara, the young engineer, stepped forward, her hands trembling, but her eyes resolute. I'm coming, Captain. For my family. Alara gripped her shoulder, a silent promise passing between them. The jump to Tarsus relay was swift, the ship emerging near a crumbling station orbiting a gas giant, its rings a shimmering shroud. The relay's hull was a wreck, Croth claw marks scarring its surface, its silence a tomb for the dead. Alara led the team, Kale, Mara, and Holt, into the airlock, their suits sealed against the void. The corridor beyond was a nightmare, walls slick with alien ichor, the air thick with the stench of decay. Alara's chest constricted as she spotted a coalition badge half buried in the debris, her brother's unit. She forced herself forward, her plasma rifle raised, each step a battle against the past. Holt scouted, his gruff voice breaking the silence. Croth tracks fresh. The team tensed, their breaths shallow. A Croth sentinel burst from the shadows, its mandibles snapping, claws slashing. Alara fired, the bolt searing its chest, but it charged, knocking Holt down. He roared, wrestling it, blood spraying as its claw raked his arm. Mara screamed, frozen, but Alara dragged her aside, firing again. The sentinel collapsed, its ichor pooling, but the sound drew more. Kale grabbed the stabilizer from a console, his hands swift despite the danger. Got it. Move. They ran, the relay shuddering as Croth reinforcements closed in. Alara's side burned, a fresh tear in her suit, but she pushed on, her brother's face in her mind. They reached the airlock, the Stellar Resolve's ramp a lifeline. Holt stumbled, his arm bleeding, but Alara hauled him aboard, her strength waning. Back on the bridge, Alara collapsed, her wound bandaged, the stabilizer in Mara's hands. The crew installed it, the Nova Forge's hum steadying, its power surging. But the scanners lit up 3 Croth bioships, their signature strong. Alara forced herself up, her voice a rasp. Target the lead ship. Fire on my mark. The crew obeyed, the Forge's beam lancing out, vaporizing the bioship in a blaze of light. The crew cheered, their relief raw, but the second ship fired, its plasma bolt rocking the hull. Alarms blared, hull integrity dropping. Alara staggered, her vision swimming, but she shouted, "Keep firing." Kale took the controls, his focus ironclad. The Forge struck again, the second ship crumbling, its wreckage drifting. The third bioship hesitated, its tendrils twitching, then retreated into the nebula. Alara sank into her chair, her breath ragged, blood seeping through her bandage. Mara knelt beside her, tears falling. "You did it again, Captain." Alara gripped her hand, her voice weak but fierce. "We did it." The crew gathered, their faces a mix of awe and sorrow. The stabilizer a triumph born from loss. The Nova Forge was stronger, but the war loomed larger. Alara's mind raced with plans, refine the weapon, strike the Croth fleet. She stared at the void, the gas giant's rings a mirror to her resolve. The fallen stars had given them this chance, and she'd seize it. The hangar bay buzzed with repairs, the crew reinforcing the Forge's frame. Alara oversaw it, her wound a dull ache, her spirit unyielding. She remembered Tarsus relay's silence, the badge in the debris, and it fueled her. The Nova Forge needed a targeting upgrade to handle the fleet. She tasked Kale with scavenging parts from a wreckage, his hands steady despite the risk. Mara analyzed the stabilizer's data, her fear turning to skill. Alara's heart swelled, the crew her family, their losses a bond. A faint Croth signal pinged, a scout probing. She masked her tension with a grim smile. "Prepare for contact," she ordered. The crew armed the turrets, the forge glowing with readiness. The scout appeared, its green glow menacing, but the stellar resolve fired first, the forge's beam cutting it down. The crew cheered, their voices a roar of defiance. Ilara watched the wreckage drift, her brother's memory a whisper. The Nova Forge was evolving, humanity's answer to the Croth, forged in blood and steel. She stood tall, her pain a badge, her crew her strength. The void was dark, but within the ship a light burned, ready to strike. The war was far from won, but Ilara's resolve was iron, her next move a promise of retribution. The stellar resolve hummed, its crew united, their fight a beacon in the fallen stars.